Keys to the Kingdom. I'm Marissa. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. Good to see you today. We are going to continue our study of the Book of Jubilees today. And we're actually in chapters 4 through 6. We're going to read chapters 4 through 6 to see what else this book has to say. We started this on Shabbat, so this past Saturday we started reading this book. We went through chapters 1 through 3, and it was mostly, it started out with Moses at Mount Sinai, and then basically God was repeating, Yahuwah was repeating everything from creation up to that point and telling Moshe to write everything down. So he was giving a recap of everything. And we saw that he went into special detail when it came to Shabbat. And he went into a lot of detail about how to keep the Sabbath and how important it is and how it is a sign between God and Israel. So God and his people. And so we're going to continue reading today in chapters 4 through 6, and I'm actually going to put this up on the screen for you so we can read along, and then we will get through some of these chapters of Jubilees. This Shabbat coming up, what we're probably going to do is continue with our whole word Bible study. So we're going to continue reading the Bible from where we left off. And then I'll probably just keep the Book of Jubilees on Tuesdays, and I'll keep our whole word Bible study on Shabbat. So we'll pick up with our Bible study this Shabbat, and then I think we'll just keep Tuesdays as the Book of Jubilees. So if you didn't get to see the video from Saturday, this last Shabbat, we started reading chapters 1 through 3. You might want to go back and read those chapters or watch the video, whatever you need to do to get caught up. Because, obviously you want to read it from the beginning. You don't want to start reading it, out of order. So go back and read chapters 1 through 3 if you didn't have a chance, or go back and watch the video. And today we're going to continue our reading with chapters 4 through 6. And like I said, I'm going to pull it up on the screen so that you can follow along with me as we're reading. And don't mind me, I have a little bit of a sinus thing going on because I accidentally inhaled some spices, so I'm having some sinus issues. So please forgive me if I sound sinusy. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. If you have the Book of Jubilees, go ahead and open your books to chapter 4. Otherwise, I'm just going to put it up on the screen for everybody, and we're just going to follow along on the screen, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with chapter 4. And like I normally do, if there's anything that I feel like we need to just pause and sort of address, I'm going to do that. But if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to write them in the comments, and we'll address those as I see them, because I don't want you to be left with questions in your mind, or maybe just a comment that something that you want to point out. Go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section so that as we're reading, we can discuss those, okay? All right, so let's start with chapter 4. Okay, so here we are in chapter 4. Let me go ahead and pull this over. All right, so this is chapter 4 of the Book of Jubilees. So let's go ahead and get started. It says, in the 3rd week, in the 2nd Jubilee, she gave birth to Cain. So obviously this has to do with, this is Eve, because we left off at the end. She had no son until the 1st Jubilee, and after this he knew her, and so it was after the 1st Jubilee that they tried to have children. in the third week on the second Jubilee, she gave birth to Cain, okay? And in the fourth week of the Jubilee, she gave birth to Abel. So this is interesting. It says, in the third week of the second Jubilee, she gave birth to Cain. And in the fourth week, which would be a week later, she gave birth to Abel. And in the fifth week of the Jubilee, she gave birth to her daughter Awan. And this says right here, a week is 7 years. Okay, so sometimes the Bible and sometimes extra biblical texts will actually use the its uses of time is sometimes not the way that we count time. So sometimes days are years, or in this case, a week is 7 years. And for some reason, the Bible tends to do that. So now this makes more sense. In the third week, so in the third 7 years, she gave birth to Cain. In the fourth 7 years, she gave birth to Abel. And then in the fifth, she gave birth to, so it seems like every 7 years she was having a child. Excuse me. So in the first year of the third Jubilee, Cain killed Abel because Elohim accepted the sacrifice of Abel and did not accept the sacrifice of Cain. And I think it's interesting, and I'm just going to pause here for a moment, because people always say that Adam and Eve and the patriarchs never kept the Sabbath because there's no scripture that says that God commanded them to do so. And it's not really showing that they're keeping the Sabbath. But it also never said, excuse me, there was also there's no scripture showing that God commanded them to sacrifice and make offerings. There's no details about that whatsoever, but yet here we see them making sacrifices and offerings. Excuse me. And how one is acceptable and one is not acceptable. So somewhere along the lines, this was known. Either God had to tell them. Somehow he was imparting this information to them, because otherwise, how would Cain or Abel even know to make a sacrifice and what was acceptable or not acceptable? So I don't think it's a valid argument when people say that, hey, Crystal, so glad you can make it, sweetie. Glad you could be here. I don't think it's a valid argument when people say that, that the Sabbath was never given until Mount Sinai, because we don't see them keeping the Sabbath, and there was no command to keep the Sabbath, and yet we see no command for them to sacrifice anything either. And there's no details about what was right, what was a acceptable or not acceptable offering. So, anyways, in the first year of the third Jubilee, Cain kills Abel because Elohim accepted the sacrifice of Abel and did not accept the sacrifice of Cain. And he killed them in the field, and his blood cried from the ground to heaven, complaining because he had killed him. Hey, Jessica, so glad you could make it, sweetie. Good to see you. So Yah blamed Cain because he had killed Abel, and he made him a fugitive on the earth because of the blood of his brother, and he cursed him on the earth. Because of this, it is written in the heavenly tablets, "Cursed is he who kills his neighbor treacherously." And let all who have seen and heard say, "So be it," And the man who had seen and not reported it, let him be accursed as the one committing it. So in other words, he was telling Moses, if you kill someone, you are cursed if you kill your neighbor. But if someone sees it and doesn't report it, you're just as guilty as the one committing it, okay? Okay, so basically this was sort of adding to the commandment not to kill, but also if you see someone killing someone else and you do not report it, you're just as accursed as the one committing it. Because we are responsible for our neighbor. For this reason we announce when we come before Yah or our Elohim all the sin that is committed on heaven and earth, and in light and in darkness and everywhere. And Adam and his wife bore Abel 4 weeks of years, and in the 4th year of the 5th week they became joyful. And Adam knew his wife again, and she birthed a son and called his name Seth. For he said, Elohim has raised up a second offspring to us in the earth instead of Abel, for Cain killed Abel. In the 6th week, which would be the 6th set of 7 years, he begat his daughter Azurah. Okay, so this is interesting because we don't have any names of any of the daughters anywhere in the original text. And obviously they had daughters, and I'm sure they had many, many other sons as well. However, sometimes the scriptures don't mention them in different areas because they're just not focused on those characters. But surely they had many, many sons and daughters, but we've never seen the names of any of those of the daughters of Adam and Eve. And Cain took Awan, his sister, to be his wife, and she gave birth to Enoch at the close of the 4th Jubilee. So this Enoch here is not Enoch that is in the Book of Enoch. This is just the similar name, that's all. I'm so sorry. Let me back up. I completely accidentally muted it. I apologize. Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so let's see, where was I? Let me see where I was. Okay, so I think this is where I was. So Adam and his wife mourned for Abel 4 weeks of years, and in the 4th year of the 5th week she became joyful. Oh no, we talked about Seth. I think we talked about Seth. And Adam knew his wife again, and she gave birth to a son, and she called his name Seth. Okay, we already read that. I'm sorry. Let me find my spot here. So here we go. In the 6th week, he begat his daughter Azurah. And Cain took Awan, his sister, to be his wife, and she gave birth to Enoch at the close of the 4th Jubilee. So, like I said, I don't know if you heard me, but this is not the Enoch that is in the Book of Enoch. This is just a similar name. In the first year of the first week of the 5th Jubilee, houses were built on the earth, and Cain built a city. And like I was saying, you will see throughout scriptures that those who build a city are typically up to no good. Okay, so you'll see over and over again that those who build a city are up to no good. They don't serve God. It's typically out of fear or pride that they start to build cities. And called its name after the name of his son Enoch. Adam knew his wife, and she gave birth to a total of 9 sons. In the 5th week of the 5th Jubilee, Seth took Azurah his sister, and in the 4th year of the 6th week, she gave birth to Enos. He began to call on the name of Yah on the earth. In the 7th Jubilee, on the 3rd week, Enos took Noam, his sister, to be his wife, and she gave birth to a son in the 3rd year of the 5th week, and he called his name Canaan. Okay, and this is not the Canaan that we know that was named after the land of Canaan. At the close of the 8th Jubilee, Canaan took Methuselah, his sister, to, Mualaleth. Okay, that's a little bit tough to say. Mualaleth, his sister, to be his wife, and she gave birth to a son in the 9th Jubilee, in the 1st week in the 3rd year of this week, and he called his name Mahalalel. Notice here at the very beginning of creation, obviously it was it was lawful for them to marry and have children with their brothers and sisters because there was nobody on the earth. You will see later on that you are not allowed, it is unlawful for you to marry your brother or sister or cousin. Hold on one second. All right, guys, I apologize. I just, somebody was knocking on my door, so please forgive me. Please forgive me. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So you'll see here, like I was saying, typically, and this is just in the beginning, as the people were starting to procreate and spread out, you know, that they were marrying their brothers and their sisters, but you'll see later on that, you know, they stopped marrying a brother and a sister, and then maybe it's a cousin, you know, and then later on, you know, you're not doing that either. But this would be the only time in history where, obviously, we see anyone marrying their brother or sister. Except in the case of Abraham, which was not much, you know, further along, but that was his half-sister. Sarah was Abraham's half-sister, not his full-blooded sister. Okay, in the 2nd week of the 10th Jubilee, Mahalalel took to him a wife, Dinah, the daughter of Barachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. So his father's brother, that would be his cousin. So already people are starting to marry their cousins, and as opposed to their spouse or their sibling. And she gave birth to a son in the 3rd week on the 6th year, and he called his name Jared. For in his days the messengers of Yah descended on the earth. Okay, look at this right here. It was in the days of Jared, and you'll see this in the Bible as well. You'll see this in the book of Genesis, where in the days of Jared, that's when the watchers, or the fallen angels, or as you see it worded here, the messengers of Yah, descended on the earth. So just like I said, those who are named the watchers. Okay, so this coincides with the book of Enoch, guys. Very similar to the book of Enoch, because in the book of Enoch, they're called watchers. That they should instruct the children of men, and that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. Okay, so let me just tell you that not all messengers of Yah are fallen angels. Not all watchers are fallen angels. Okay? Basically, all of the heavenly hosts that we would call angels are messengers of Yah and also considered watchers. It says here that they were supposed to instruct the children of men and that they should do judgment and uprightness in the earth. Okay, so they were supposed to, these particular watchers, it seems like they were supposed to instruct them in the ways of righteousness and judgment. However, it was in the time of Jared that the fallen angels mated with the wives of men, and we'll see that later on. In the 11th Jubilee, Jared took to himself a wife, and her name was Baraka, the daughter of Rasujal, a daughter of his father's brother. Okay, so like I said, we're already seeing people marry cousins instead of siblings. In the 4th week of this Jubilee, she gave birth to a son in the 5th week, in the 4th year of the Jubilee, and called his name Enoch. So this is the Enoch, the one that we know of to be in the book of Enoch and in the Bible. He was the first among men that are born on earth who learned writing and knowledge and wisdom, and who wrote down the signs of heaven according to the order of their months in a book. So basically, he studied the stars of heaven. And it probably means the constellations, the sun, the moon, and the stars, basically. He was mapping them out according to their months in a book. That men might know the seasons of years, okay? Because you have to understand, they knew more about how to calculate the days, the times, the years, the months better than we do today. In fact, our calculations have been basically perverted, because it was prophesied in the book of Daniel that someone would come and change the times and the seasons. Okay? But Enoch knew according to the order of their months, and that men might know the seasons of the years according to the order of their separate months. Okay? He was the first to write a testimony. So this book of Jubilees actually writes that Enoch wrote a testimony. Okay? So is this book telling us that the book of Enoch was the testimony that he wrote down? And he testified to the sons of men among the generations of the earth, and recounted the weeks of Jubilees, and he made known to them the days of years. Okay, he was a calendar keeper. Okay, and so this is why we have discussed in the past, us trying to follow the correct calendar of Yah, because it has been perverted. So we are on a journey trying to calculate the correct days and months and years so that we can celebrate the feast days on a holy day and not a profaned day. The days of years, and set in order the months, and recounted the Sabbaths of the years, as was made to them known to him. Okay, so he's telling them the days of years, the set in order the months, and recounted the Sabbaths of the years. And what was and what will be, he saw in a vision of his sleep. And as it will happen to the children of men throughout their generations until the end of judgment. So all of this right here that it's saying, and this is probably just a summary, is what the book of Enoch is all about. This is what the book of Enoch is all about. He says, as it will happen to the children of men throughout their generations until the day of judgment. He saw and understood everything and wrote his testimony. So again, the book of Jubilees is confirming that Enoch did write his own book, his own testimony, and place the testimony on earth for all the children of men and for their generations. So it wasn't hidden. He wrote it for them to have. In the 12th Jubilee, in the 6th week of it, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Danel, the daughter of his father's brother. And in the 6th year, in this week, she gave birth to a son and called his name Methuselah. So, we see this in the Bible. They just don't mention who the wives are. We never get to see the names of the wives. But this is Methuselah who came right after. He was the longest living human being. He was with the messengers of Elohim these 6 jubilees of years, and they showed him everything that is on earth and in the heavens, the rule of the sun, and he wrote everything down. You see this, the rule of the sun? Okay? This is pertaining to how the sun rotates, because it was very much well known all the way up until, it wasn't until almost the 20th century that every person knew, every civilization knew that the sun and moon rotated within the firmament. Okay? There was no globe. There was no Earth spinning 1,600 miles an hour and going around the sun 66,600 miles an hour, because that's what science tells us today. That's what NASA tells us. It wasn't until the 20th century that this was considered true. They all knew that the sun rotated within the firmament with the moon. And he testified to the watchers who had sinned with the daughters of men. Okay? This is what the book of Enoch is about. And this is also in Genesis 6. Who had sinned with the daughters of men, for these had begun to unite themselves so as to be defiled with the daughters of men. And Enoch testified against them all. Once again, Book of Jubilees is telling us that the book of Enoch is true. And he was taken from among the children of men, and we conducted him into the Garden of Eden in majesty and honor. So this is saying because Enoch was alive, he lived 365 days, and then he was taken and he was no more. Yeah, oh, I can't believe I just saw this. Crystal says only 2 weeks away to Passover. Amen. I'm so glad. I think this is so interesting. I'm just going to pause for a second. I think it's so interesting, Crystal, that this is going to be your first Passover, and you could possibly be celebrating it on the correct day. Because even though I've been celebrating Passover a very, 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 very long time, this will be my first year celebrating it on the correct calendar. What I believe thus far to be the correct calendar, because typically we all celebrated it on the Hebrew calendar that is used all over the world. However, we all were trying to really get the correct days, months, and years down so that we were celebrating the feast days on the correct day. Because these extra biblical texts give us a prophecy of how man will forget the days, the times, and the months, and the years. And then it actually prophesies that because of that, man is going to celebrate a feast day on an unclean day and not a holy day. The holy day would be the day that God set in his perfect time for us to celebrate it on. I hope we're celebrating at the same time they are in heaven. That's exactly right. And see, you have to understand that everything that we do as far as the feast days and the Sabbath, they are doing it in heaven. So come Shabbat, they're doing the Shabbat in heaven. Come Passover or First Fruits or Shavuot or Day of Atonement, all of those things they're doing in heaven. So Crystal brought up the perfect point as to why we want to do it on the exact day that it's supposed to be done. Number one, because Yah said that was his will. Number two, he prophesied that we would get off of the correct calendar. And number three, that's the exact day that they're going to be doing it in heaven. And I love that. I just want to be lined up with Yah. Amen, Crystal. All right, let's get back to our reading. Okay, so it says here, and he was taken from among the children of men and conducted him into the Garden of Eden in majesty and honor. And there he wrote down the condemnation and judgment of the world and all the wickedness of the children of men. So this is basically saying that the book of Enoch was written in the Garden of Eden. I think that's very interesting. Because of it, Elohim brought the waters of the flood on all the land of Eden. For there he was set as a sign, and that he should testify against all the children of men, that he should recount all the deeds of the generations until the day of condemnation. He burnt the incense of the sanctuary, even sweet spices acceptable before Yah on the mount. For Yah has 4 places on the earth: the Garden of Eden, the Mount of the East, and this mountain on which you are this day, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion, which will be sanctified in the new creation for a sanctification of the earth. Through it will the earth be sanctified from all its guilt and its uncleanliness through the generations of the world. So this is interesting. It says, Yah has 4 places on earth: the Garden of Eden, Mount of the East, I'm not sure what that is, Mount Zion, and then, Mount Sinai and Mount Zion. Mount Zion is in Jerusalem. The Mount of the East, I'm not sure what that is. And it's saying that all of these, through it, will be the earth will be sanctified. Okay. So it says, in the 14th Jubilee, Methuselah took to himself a wife, Edna, the daughter of Azrael, the daughter of his father's brother. And in the 3rd week, in the 1st year of this week, he begot a son and called his name Lamech. We know who Lamech is. And in the 14th Jubilee, on the 3rd week, Lamech took to himself a wife, and her name was Batenos, the daughter of Barachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. And in this week she gave birth to a son and called his name Noah, saying, this one will comfort me for all my trouble and all my work and for the ground which Yah has cursed. At the close of the 19th Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 6th year of it, Adam died, and all his sons buried him in the land of his creation, and he was the first to be buried in the earth. He lacked 70 years of 1,000 years, because 1,000 years are as one day in the testimony of the heavens. So just like our Bibles say, a day is 1,000 years is as a day in heaven, okay? Therefore was it written concerning the tree of knowledge, on the day that you eat of it, you shall die. Because of this, he did not complete the 1,000 years, but instead he died during it. So when Yah said, on the day you eat of it, you shall surely die, well, they were never supposed to ever die at all. So it didn't mean that he was going to die immediately, but he would eventually die. And so he lived 930 years. He lacked 70 years of 1,000. So yeah, 930 years. At the close of this Jubilee, Cain was killed after him in the same year. Video chat in and out. Is this better? Is it the sound that's going in and out? Hopefully you can hear me. But, okay, so I'm going to continue. Videos cutting in and out. Okay. Let me see here. All right, let me see what's videos cutting in and out. Okay, is that better? Can you hear me better now? Hopefully. Is that a little bit better, Crystal? Hopefully you can hear me now. I'm going to go ahead and continue. So after Adam dies, it says, at the close of this Jubilee, Cain was killed after him in the same year, because his house fell on him, and he died in the middle of his house. And he was killed by its stones. With a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone he was killed in the righteous judgment. So this is interesting. It says that his house fell on him, and he was killed. So obviously his house was made of stones, and it says that the stones killed him because he used a stone to kill Abel, his brother. So you see here it says he killed him with a stone. So I think that's, I think it's interesting that it says that Cain was killed by stones because he killed his brother with a stone. For this reason it was ordained in the heavenly tablets, with the instrument with which a man kills his neighbor, with the same shall be killed. In the same manner that he wounded him, in like manner shall they deal with him. So basically, you reap what you sow. And this was from the beginning. And in the 25th Jubilee, Noah took to himself a wife, and her name was Emzara, the daughter of Rachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. In the first year of the 5th week, and on the 3rd year of it, she gave birth to Shem. So Noah is now having Shem, and in the 5th year of it, she gave birth to Ham. And then in the 1st year of the 6th week, she gave birth to Japheth. So Shem was the oldest, Ham was the middle, and Japheth was the youngest. Better now. Okay, good. Okay, so now we're getting into the life of Noah. So let's see what's going on here in chapter 5. When the children began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, and the messengers of Elohim, so the angels, saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful, and that they took themselves wives of all whom they chose, and they gave birth to their sons, and they were giants. So, once again, we see confirmation that a certain group of angels mated with the daughters of man and gave birth to giants. Because of them, lawlessness increased on the earth. Okay? Lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way. Men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walked on the earth were all corrupted in their ways and their orders. This is very important. Their orders. Okay, God has order, and that's why a dog and a cat do not mate together and have kids. This is why, a lion and an elephant don't mate together. God has boundaries. And these beings of lawlessness were causing everything to corrupt its way on the earth, including the animals. And they began to devour each other. Lawlessness increased on the earth, and the imagination and thoughts of all men were continually totally evil. Totally evil all the time. Okay? Elohim looked on the earth and saw it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted its orders. And all that were on the earth had committed all manner of evil before his eyes. And he said that he would destroy man and all flesh on the face of the earth that he created. But Noah found grace before the eyes of Yah. So we see that in the book of Genesis. And against the messengers whom he had sent on the earth, he had boiling anger. So God's anger towards these angels was boiling anger. And he gave commandment to root them out of all their dominion. You see this here? They were not allowed back into the heavenly realm. They were kicked out of the realm in which God and the other angels resided. And he commanded us to bind them in the depths of the earth. Okay, you see this over and over again. The angels are bound in the depths of the earth. Okay? And look, they are bound in the middle of the earth. You see this? If you want to know where the fallen angels are, this is where they are. They're bound in the middle of the earth and are kept separate. Okay? And against their sons went out a command from his mouth that they should be killed with the sword and be left under heaven. He said, my spirit shall not always abide on man, for they are also flesh, and their days shall be 120 years. And, this is in the book of Genesis as well. And he sent his sword to their presence that each should kill his neighbor. And they began to kill each other until they fell by the sword and were destroyed from the earth. So basically, these giants were killing each other. And that, if you read the book of Enoch, that was one of the curses that was to come upon the fallen angels, is that they would see their offspring kill each other off. See here? And their fathers were witnesses of their destruction. And after this, they were bound in the... See, so this just confirms what I just said about the book of Enoch. Their fathers, the angels, witnessed... They were supposed to witness their destruction. And after this, they were bound in the depths of the earth forever, until the day of great condemnation, when judgment is executed on all those who have corrupted their ways and their works before Yah. He destroyed all wherever they went, and there was not one of them left, whom he judged according to all their wickedness. Through his work he made a new and righteous nature, so that they should not sin in their whole nature forever, but should all be righteous, each to his own ways. The judgment of all is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets in righteousness, even with the judgment of all who depart from the path, is ordained for them to walk. And if they do not walk it, judgment is written down for every creature and for every kind. There is nothing in heaven or earth, in heaven or on the earth, or in light or in darkness, or in the abode of the dead, or in the depth, or in the place of darkness, that is not judged. All their judgments are are ordained and written and engraved. Okay? And he will judge all, and the great according to his greatness, and the small according to his smallness, and each according to his way. He is not one who will regard the position of any person, nor is he one who will receive gifts. And if he says that he will execute judgment on each, if one gave everything that is on earth, he will not regard the gifts or the person of any, nor accept anything in his hands, for he is a righteous judge. In other words, God cannot accept a bribe. There's nothing you can do to bribe God. There's nothing that you could give him. Of the children of Israel, as it has been written and ordained, if they turn to him in righteousness, he will forgive all their transgressions and pardon all their sins. It is written and ordained that he will show mercy on all who turn from their guilt. So God will judge everyone according to his deeds. But he is always willing to forgive transgressions when someone repents. And as for all those who corrupted their ways and their thoughts before the flood, no person was acceptable to Elohim except Noah. His sons were saved in deference to him. And these Elohim kept from the waters of the flood on his account. For Noah's heart was righteous in all his ways, and he upheld the laws and did as Elohim commanded him, and he did not depart from anything that was ordered for him. Yah said that he would destroy everything on the earth, both men and cattle and beasts and birds in the air, and that which moves on the earth. And he commanded Noah to make an ark so that he might save himself from the waters of the flood. And Noah made the ark in all respects as he commanded. In the 27th Jubilee of years, in the 5th week, on the 5th year, on the first new month. The first new month. He entered in the 6th year of it, in the 2nd new month, until the 16th. And he entered, and all that he brought to him into the ark, and Yah closed it from the outside on the 17th evening. And Yah opened 7 floodgates of heaven, and he opened the mouths of the fountains of the great deep. The earth split up and water spewed out. 7 mouths in number. You see all the sevens here, right? 7 floodgates, 7 mouths. And the floodgates began to pour down water from the heaven 40 days and 40 nights. And the fountains of the deep also went up waters until the whole world was full of water. And the waters increased on the earth by 15 cubits. The waters rose above all the high mountains, and the ark was lifted up from the earth, and it moved on the face of the waters. Okay, so most of this we see in the book of Genesis. And the water covered the face of the earth for 5 months, which is 150 days. And the ark went and rested on top of Lubar, one of the mountains of Ararat. So that's also in the book of Genesis, that it landed on Mount Ararat. On the 4th new month, the fountains of the great deep were closed, and the floodgates of heaven were restrained. And on the 7th new month, you see this, the 7th, a lot of sevens here, all the mouths of the bottomless gulfs of the earth were opened, and the water began to flow down into the deep below. So the water is now starting to recede. On the 10th new month, on the top of the mountains, on the 10th new month, the top of the mountains were seen, and on the 1st new month, the earth became visible. The waters disappeared from the earth in the 5th week on the 7th year of it, and on the 17th day on the 2nd month, the earth was dry. On the 27th of it, he opened the ark and sent out beasts and cattle and birds and everything that was moving. Okay, so most of this we see from chapter 5. We do see in the book of Exodus. All right, so last chapter, this is chapter 6. Let's see if there's anything new here. On the 3rd new month, he went out of the ark. But actually the Book of Jubilees gives us more precise dates and times to know exactly when all of this happened. But on the 3rd new month, he went out of the ark and built an altar on the mountain. And he made atonement for the earth, and took a kid and made atonement by its blood for all the guilt of the earth, for everything that had been on it had been destroyed, except those that were in the ark with Noah. He placed the fat of it on the altar, and he took an ox and a goat and a sheep and kids and salt and a turtle dove and the young of the dove, and placed a burnt sacrifice on the altar. And poured on it an offering mingled with oil, and sprinkled wine and sprinkled frankincense over everything. As we see here, frankincense is very popular in the Bible. And caused a good and pleasing odor to arise, acceptable before Yah. So it is interesting that he knew what to sacrifice and how to sacrifice it. But we never ever once see God commanding anyone in the beginning of the Bible to make a sacrifice before, the command's just not there, but yet they're doing it. And Yah smelled the good and pleasing odor, and he made a covenant with Noah that there should not be any more floods to destroy the earth, that all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, shall never cease. Cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night should not change their order, nor cease forever. Increase and multiply on the earth and become many, and be a blessing on it, and I will inspire the fear of you and the dread of you and everything that is in the earth and in the seas. So in other words, increase and multiply, and everything that is on the earth will fear man. Look, I have given you all beasts and all winged things and everything that moves on the earth, and the fish in the waters, and all things good for food. As the green herbs, I have given you all things to eat. But you shall not eat anything alive or with blood in it, for the life of all flesh is in the blood. Or your blood of your lives will be required. At the hand of every man and at the hand of every beast will I require the blood of man. Okay, we see all of this in the book of Genesis as well. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of Elohim he made man. Increase and multiply on the earth. So that was the first commandment of Yah after they came out of the ark. Now Noah and his sons swore that they would not eat any blood that was in any flesh. And he made a covenant before Yah Elohim forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month. Because of this he spoke to you that you should make a covenant with the children of Israel with an oath. In this month on the mountain you should sprinkle blood on them because of all the words of the covenant which Yah made with them forever. This testimony is written concerning you, that you should observe it continually, so that you should not eat on any day any blood of beasts or birds or cattle during all of the days of the earth. And the man who eats the blood of beast or cattle or birds during all the days of the earth, he and his offspring shall be rooted out of the land. It was very, very important that you did not eat blood, apparently. And you will command the children of Israel to eat no blood, so that their name and their offspring may be before Yah our Elohim continually. There is no limit of days for this law. It is forever. They shall observe it throughout their generations, so that they may continue supplicating on your behalf with blood before the altar. Every day at the time of morning and evening thou shalt seek forgiveness on your behalf perpetually before Yah, that they may keep it and not be rooted out. And he gave to Noah and his sons a sign that there should not be a flood on the earth. And he set his rainbow in the cloud as a sign of the eternal covenant, that there should never again be a flood on the earth to destroy it for all the days of the earth. For this reason it is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets that they should celebrate the Feast of Weeks in this month once a year, to renew the covenant every year. So this is very interesting because it's saying that they're to celebrate the Feast of Weeks. Okay? In this month. So this seems to be the month that Noah and his sons came out of the ark. Okay, and if you recall correctly, the Feast of Weeks is actually Shavuot, or Pentecost, okay, which is 50 days after Passover. So it seems here that they were celebrating the Feast of Weeks before it was commanded at Mount Sinai. This was Shavuot. So Shavuot was when God gave the Torah at Mount Sinai, and also when the Holy Spirit was poured out during Pentecost. Same exact time. And he's asking them to observe it every year in remembrance of them coming out of the ark. And, well, coming out of the ark, making a sacrifice, and that he would never destroy the earth with a flood again. This whole festival was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation until the days of Noah, which were 26 jubilees, 5 weeks of years. Noah and his sons observed it for 7 jubilees. So Noah and his sons were observing a feast day before it was ever given at Mount Sinai. So they were celebrating the Feast of Weeks. Why? Because it's celebrated in heaven from the day of creation. All the way until Noah's death. From the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with it until the days of Abraham. And they ate blood. So you see what happened here. They were celebrating the Feast of Weeks, okay, all the way up until Noah's death, and then they did away with it until the days of Abraham. It was when Abraham came along that God sort of just renewed everything that he had sort of taught prior. But Abraham observed it, and Isaac and Jacob and his children observed it up to your days. And in your days, the children of Israel forgot it until you celebrated it anew on this mountain. Okay, so he's talking about the giving of the Torah, because the giving of the Torah is when the Feast of Weeks is. That's when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. That is called Shavuot. Okay, that is also the same time that the Holy Spirit was poured out in Jerusalem. So you see, they forgot it. You'll see all throughout the Bible that God's holy feast days, his Shabbats, his Sabbaths, they're always forgotten until someone comes along and decides to observe it, like Abraham. So see, they celebrated it anew on this mountain. Okay? So they celebrated the Feast of Weeks anew on the mountain of Sinai after God brought them out of the land of Egypt. He was renewing what he had already been celebrating prior. Command the children of Israel to observe this festival in all their generations for a commandment to them. 1 day in the year, in this month, they shall celebrate the festival. For it is the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of First Fruits. This feast is twofold and of double nature. According to what is written and engraved concerning it, celebrate it. For I have written it in the book of the first law, and that which I have written to you, that you should celebrate it in its season, one day in the year. And I explained to you its sacrifices, that the children of Israel should remember, and you should celebrate it throughout their generations in this month, the same day every year. So you see that? The same day every year, we're supposed to celebrate it. In the first new month, and in the fourth new month, and in the seventh new month, and in the 10th new month, are the days of remembrance, and the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. So in the first new month, in the first new month, that's when we celebrate Passover and unleavened bread, first fruits. The 4th new month, okay, we're celebrating Shavuot. The 7th new month, we have Feast of Trumpets. We have Feast of Trumpets and Yom Kippur. And 10th new month, well, actually, let me see here. What feast day is in the 10th month? Because all of the fall feasts are in the 7th month, and this says the 10th month are days of remembrance. And the days of the seasons are in 4 divisions of the years. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. So this is interesting. I would have to go and look and see what we're supposed to celebrate here. Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become a memorial to him. On the first new month, he was told to make for himself an ark. On that day the earth was dry, and he saw from the opened ark the earth. On the 4th new month, the mouths of the depths of the bottomless pit beneath were closed. So he's correlating this with what happened during the flood. So on the 1st new month is when he opened the ark and saw the earth. On the 4th new month, that's when all of the water of the depths were closed. In the 7th new month, all the mouths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and the waters began to descend. And in the 10th new month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. Because of this, he ordained for them for himself as feasts for a memorial forever, and thus they are ordained. And they placed on them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks. From one to another passed their memorial, and from the first to the second, and from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. All the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make their entire year complete. This is engraved and ordained on the heavenly tablets. And there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. Command you, the children of Israel, that they observe the years according to this counting. 364 days. You see, just like in the book of Enoch, a whole year is supposed to have 364 days. And these will constitute a complete year, and they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feast, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb its feast. Do you see how important these feast days are, guys? Do you see how important God's Sabbaths and feast days are, and how they're supposed to be calculated correctly? They will not leave out any day nor disturb any feasts. But if they neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order. Okay? And they will neglect their established rules. This is where we are today. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years. Do you see this? This is so important. I want you to pay very close attention to this. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new months and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will wrongly determine all the years, order of the years. They will wrongly determine all the order of the years. And I'm telling you, not only is the Gregorian calendar that we use is so far from being correct, and when we celebrate the new year in the world, it's not even close to being God's new year, and it doesn't even make sense. But you see here, even the Hebrew calendar that comes out of Israel, because they add things and take away things, they still are wrongly determining all the order of years. For I know, and from now on I will declare to you, and it is not of my own devising. For the book lies written in the presence of me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained. You see how important this is? The division of days. God had the division of days perfectly calculated. Or they forget the feasts of the covenant and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance. Tell me that's not where we are today. Of course it is. Okay? It was very important how you calculated the days and the years and the months. Otherwise, they'll forget the feasts of the covenant and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. So, this goes back to one of the ways that we are to calculate the yearly calendar, because this says that from year to year, the moon comes 10 days too soon, okay? And because of that, every 2 years, it comes in 20 days too soon. And then every 3 years is 30 days too soon, which would actually equal an entire new month, which is why every 3 years, you're supposed to add a whole month. You're supposed to add an extra month every 3 years, and that's what we're doing this year, which is why we're celebrating Passover April 27th this year and not March 27th. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they disturb or misinterpret the order. Okay? So check this out. And they will make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the pure with the unclean, and the unclean day with the pure. For they will go wrong as to the months, and the Sabbaths, and the feasts, and the Jubilees. In other words, their calendar is going to be all wishy-washy, and they're not going to be celebrating my holy days on a clean day, on the day that it's supposed to be on. On the day that it's being celebrated in heaven. For this reason I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them. For after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. Okay, obviously we have a 365-day calendar. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new months and the seasons and the Sabbaths and the festivals. Okay, so because of the moon, okay, They will not calculate the new months and the seasons and the Sabbaths and the festivals correctly. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Okay? I had posted a video prior, back in March. I had posted a video, and it showed perfectly, according to the Book of Enoch and according to the Book of Jubilees, how we are to calculate the days, the months, the years, and therefore the feast days. And thus far, this is the best calculation I've ever seen. And it lines up and makes perfect sense. And so we're actually going to be celebrating Passover 2 weeks from today. On the 27th, April 27th, we're going to be celebrating on the evening of the 27th. That's when we're going to be eating our Passover meal. The evening of the 27th of this month, 2 weeks from today, Tuesday the 27th, in the evening, we will be eating our Passover meal. So take it to prayer, do your due diligence, read the passages, watch it, watch as many videos as you need to, but pray to Yah, and if it's put on your heart to celebrate it during this time, then I suggest that you do that, okay? We're actually going to finish up with our Bible reading this Shabbat, and then, hold on one second here. Let me see here. Oh, good, Amanda. Okay, Amanda's on board. She's going to celebrate on the 27th. Yeah, so this Shabbat, we're going to finish up our whole word Bible study. And then next Tuesday, we're going to finish up with chapter 7 in the Book of Jubilees, okay? And hopefully you'll be ready for Passover. April 27th, Amanda's going to be celebrating on this 27th, so that's great. And it really just comes from a place of wanting to line up with Yah perfectly. We're getting very, very close to the end, and I believe He's revealing these things like a lot quicker because we're so close to the end, and we just want to. I personally I just want to serve Him correctly. I don't want to be doing anything out of His will, even if it's out of ignorance. I just pray, God, get me into your will, because there's a lot of things that we don't know. But this was the perfect calculation of the days, the times, and the years, using all the scriptures. And again, if you haven't done your research, it only makes sense if you're thinking of the earth and the moon and the stars in a stationary, enclosed form, not a globe. In other words, this is what it looks like here. We'll talk more about that on a different day, because that's a whole other subject. God bless you. I hope to see you this Shabbat, and I hope that you will take it to prayer as far as celebrating Passover on the 27th. And I hope you'll be preparing leading up to that day. And I hope to see you sometime soon this Shabbat, finishing up with our Bible readings. And then we'll get back into the Book of Jubilees, okay? Amen. Have a great day, guys.